There are prayers we recite without ever truly hearing them. Words our lips know better than our hearts. They roll around in our mouths like stones polished by time, worn smooth, drained of their fire. Our Father is one of those. How many times have we uttered it without listening to the silence between the words? How many times have we raised our eyes to a sky we thought was far away, without understanding that this sky has never been above our heads, but within us? In ancient monasteries, it was said that the Our Father was no ordinary prayer. It was a passage, an initiation into the divine breath. Each phrase, each vibration of this original Aramaic text opened a threshold in human consciousness. But centuries have flattened these spiritual mountains, reducing them to a mere liturgical formula. And the mystery has fallen silent, like a song broken by repetition. Ancient manuscripts, found in the caves of Syria and the archives of the Egyptian desert, whisper a different story. There, the Our Father is not addressed to a distant God, but to a diffuse presence, a breath of life which traverses the visible and invisible worlds. In the language of Jesus, Abwan Dibwashmea did not simply mean Father who art in heaven, but living breath, you who are everywhere. This Abwan philologists say it contained both masculine and feminine, strength and gentleness, creation and compassion. It was union, the secret name. In speaking these words, Jesus was not teaching devotion but breathing. He was showing how to remember the divine through breath, this forgotten, simple, primal act. Breath is God in motion within man. Benítez wrote this forcefully: if people knew how to listen to the Master's words, they would understand that he never spoke to heaven, but to the light they carry within themselves. So, when we say Our Father, are we truly speaking to him? Or are we speaking to that inner fire that has burned since the dawn of time? The first disciples did not recite the prayer. They lived it. They breathed it. They closed their eyes, inhaled on Abwan, the breath, and exhaled on Washmea, the celestial totality. This simple rhythm placed them in a state of unity with the All. And each line of the original text guided their souls toward a higher vibration. The Our Father, it was not a request but an ascent. But little by little this knowledge faded away. Translations simplified, institutions codified, and prayer became frozen in the cold stone of ritual. Breath has become Father, the mystery became dogma. And the key that opened the inner kingdom was lost in the corridors of religious power. Why? Perhaps because a God who dwells in the breath of every person cannot be confined to a church. Perhaps because a humanity that breathes with God no longer needs hierarchies, priests, or temples. Some ancient manuscripts, rejected by Rome, mention the Our Father like a universal communion. O breath, you who make galaxies and hearts dance, may your light be experienced through us. This line, erased from the canonical texts, reveals the true intention of the Master. He wanted each human being to become a channel of the divine, a conscious flame of its source. That it was not about praying to a heavenly throne, but about lighting that throne within oneself. If you really listen, you will hear the vibration of Abwan resonate in your own breath. This word is a bridge. It connects your inspiration to the origin of the world. It reminds you that the breath of God is yours, that your heart beats in rhythm with the universe. And when you say Our Father, perhaps the whole sky falls silent for a moment to listen. If you remember, Benítez said that this prayer was not meant for asking, but for remembering. It is an echo of a world where man and God were not separate. But today in our churches, this memory lies dormant beneath centuries of dust. Our Father, it has become an automatic habit, a mantra that we recite before thinking about anything else. Yet, behind each syllable, an ancient fire still burns, that of the first word, the first breath, the first consciousness. So, when your lips whisper these sacred words, ask yourself, to whom are you truly speaking? To a distant being, suspended in a sky of stone? Or to that silent light that beats, fragile and eternal, in your breast? And if the Our Father, was it not a call upwards but a call inwards? What if the kingdom Jesus spoke of wasn't waiting beyond the clouds, but behind the curtain of your own breath? There are texts that do not want to be read but heard in silence. Fragments that time has sought to erase, but which survive in the memory of stone. Among them, a manuscript of the Diwan Aramaic, found in a cave in the Syrian desert, bears a version of the Our Father that few men have had the chance to contemplate. The letters are deeply engraved, as if the one who traced them feared that the wind or oblivion would carry them away. They read, O all-encompassing breath, which engenders life in all light, sanctify your name through us. These words ask for nothing. They offer. In this apocryphal vision, Jesus teaches not to implore but to participate. It is no longer humanity turned toward a distant heaven, but the divine breathing through humanity. Prayer becomes an act of co-creation. Christ does not transmit a religion. He awakens a responsibility, to be the channel for God's dream in the material world. In his unpublished notebooks, Benítez recounts a disturbing episode. In 1979, in a small Coptic monastery in northern Galilee, an old man gave him a dusty stone tablet. It came, he said, from an abandoned chapel built on the ruins of a house where Jesus had prayed. On this stone, the inscription, half erased, appeared to predate the Greek translations. The text read, "Thy Spirit may come, thy plan may be fulfilled through us as in thy and so in us." This word, design, changes everything. The Church replaced it with will, seeing in it the submission of man to God. But in the original Aramaic, Sebiana, it carries the nuance of dream, desire, and creative vision. Jesus spoke of the divine dream, not a heavenly command. He didn't say, "Thy will be done," but, "Thy dream be fulfilled in us." This nuance opens up a whole new world. God doesn't want to dominate humanity, he wants to fulfill himself through humanity. The kingdom isn't a place to be reached, it's a state where the Creator's dream and the creature's consciousness unite in a single breath. In the Gospel of Thomas, a text Rome sought to silence, Jesus says, "The kingdom of the Father is spread throughout the earth and people do not see it." It is a breathtaking revelation. The kingdom is not after death, it is here in every atom, in every breath, in every loving gaze. Those who pray seeking heaven miss it, for the kingdom is breathed forth with every breath of life. Then comes the next line, "Give us this day's bread." Literally translated into ancient Aramaic, lakma disaunkan means something else. Not the physical bread, but the bread of being. The food Jesus speaks of is not that which fills the stomach, but that which nourishes the conscience. Bread of being, it is living knowledge, the word, the vibration that awakens the soul. He invited his disciples to nourish themselves with light, not wheat. In the early circles of disciples, this phrase was accompanied by a gesture. They placed their hand on their chest as if to remind them that the true bread is already there, in the invisible center of man. When Jesus said, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God," he was speaking of this same mystery. Thus, word by word, the Our Father becomes a path of awakening. Breath, name, purpose, bread, forgiveness, liberation, 6 doors, 6 degrees of light, 6 inner transformations. This is not a prayer to be recited, but a path to be followed. Each of these stages corresponds to a vibration of the soul, remembering its origin. The breath reminds you that God lives in you. The name, it teaches you the resonance of the divine in everything. The design connects you to the cosmic dream of the Creator. The bread of being invites you to nourish yourself with the living word. The pardon, it frees you from the burden of forgetting. And the liberation, it brings you back to life in a unified consciousness. Benítez said that Christ's true revolution was not moral, but vibrational. He spoke a language of light. His words contained frequencies capable of opening the doors of perception. Those who translated them saw sentences, but they did not hear the music. Even today, these sounds survive in apocryphal fragments, in the margins of manuscripts that the councils have banned. They are like embers under the ashes, a mere breath is enough to rekindle them. What if, hidden within this ancient text, lay the instruction manual for the kingdom? And if each line of the Our Father was it not a supplication, but an activation? What if, for 2,000 years, humanity had been repeating a sacred code without knowing that it held the key to the divine within itself? Prayer then would no longer be a call to God, but proof that God is already flowing through us. And the true miracle would not be that heaven hears us, but that we finally learn to hear heaven breathing through us. The ancient world spoke in images. The sky, the sea, bread, light, nothing was literal. In every word, in every breath, lay an invisible truth, a code reserved for those who knew how to listen beyond sounds. Jesus did not transmit doctrines but vibrations. His words, spoken in the Aramaic of the heart, were living waves capable of opening inner doors. Abwan. A single word, yet an entire universe is contained within it. It doesn't simply mean Father. It refers to the source that breathes through all forms, the silent matrix where everything begins. It is the breath that engenders creation and sustains it in being. When Jesus uttered Abwan, it wasn't a call to a distant heaven. It was a reconnection with the primal pulse of the universe. Benítez saw in this prayer a path back, an inner map leading from chaos to light. Each phrase of the Lord's Prayer is a step toward consciousness. Hallowed be thy name is not a supplication but a reminder. Let thy light shine within me, let thy essence manifest through my being. The name in the Hebrew tradition is never a mere word. It is the vibrational signature of God. To speak the name is to attempt to contain the infinite within the breath. This is why Moses, facing the burning bush, hears, Ihye Asher Ihye, I am who I am, a response that encloses nothing but opens everything. This I am resonates within every conscious being. It belongs not to any one person, nor to any one religion, but to life itself. Mystics of all traditions have recognized it. In India, prana; in Genesis, Ruah Elohim, the spirit that hovered over the waters. This unique breath transcends ages, continents, and languages. And in the heart of every human being, it awaits recognition. Do not let us enter into temptation. This phrase, often mistranslated, was not a cry of fear but a prayer of remembrance. It means, do not allow us to stray into forgetfulness of our origin. For the true temptation is not sin but separation. Evil, said Benítez, is not an external dark force but a deviation from the center. The word mala comes from the Latin root, to deviate. Thus, evil is nothing other than separation from the divine breath. And deliver us from evil, then becomes, lead us back to the source. Deliver us from separation. It is a return to the breath, to lost unity. When this prayer is said mindfully, it acts as a realigning frequency, an invisible current that reconnects the soul to its celestial origin. Each word then becomes a portal. Our unites consciousness, dissolving the illusion of division. Father connects humanity to infinity. And yet, it is the silence between these two words that holds the secret. This silence is the sacred space where the mind ceases and the presence appears. It is there, in this in-between space, that the kingdom reveals itself. Perhaps the true Lord's Prayer is not a prayer to be recited, but a state to be embodied. A frequency of love, gratitude, and remembrance. A vibration of returning home. Words are merely the steps, silence is the door. The wise say that when a person prays in truth, it is not they who speak to God, but God who speaks within them. Each breath then becomes a communion. Breath enters, breath leaves, and in this infinite back and forth, the mystery of creation is reenacted. Ab1. Father. Source. Breath. Benítez wrote, the Master did not want to found a religion, but to awaken the divine memory of humankind. This memory is not intellectual. It is not learned from books, it is remembered in silence. Where thought dissolves, where words cease to separate, the soul finally recognizes the primordial sound. So what remains within you of that memory? When you breathe deeply, do you still feel that primal breath, the one that stirred Adam's chest even before he saw the light? The same breath flows through your lungs at this moment. You don't hear it, but it is there, still and eternal beneath the movement. Perhaps prayer has never been a religious act, but a way of listening. What if the language of symbols were not an ancient code, but the memory of this forgotten bond? What if the words of Christ were keys to reopen the heart? When the name becomes silence and silence becomes breath, man and God are no longer two. They breathe together. One day the disciples asked Jesus, teach us to pray. And he answered not with dogmas but with a breath. He inhaled, then said, Ab1 Dibwashmia. Each syllable vibrated like the beating of a wing. It wasn't a prayer to recite, but an initiation into sacred breathing. Mystics say that each line corresponds to a center of the body, from breath to heaven, from heaven to earth, from earth to heart. When you say Our Father, you activate the memory of breath. When you say Who art in heaven, you remind us that these heavens are within you. When you say May your name be sanctified, you allow the light of your soul to shine. And when you say Thy kingdom come, you invite divine consciousness to govern your inner world. Then prayer ceases to be words. It becomes movement, breath, light. Benítez said, the Lord's Prayer is not a text for the lips, but for the blood. It flows in the one who awakens. Perhaps this is the forgotten revelation. God does not ask to be prayed to. He asks to be breathed in. And if you were to close your eyes now, simply listening to your breath, perhaps you would hear this ancient whisper, Ab1 Dibwashmi, O breath of life, you who are everywhere, make me your heaven.